defendant guilty.
Former police officer Derek Chauvin guilty on all charges against him. How many years he could face in prison for the murder of George Floyd?
We are able to breathe again.
Strong emotions after the jury's decision. We're hearing reactions from all over the country, including from George Floyd's brother, who was in the courtroom watching all the testimony.
Plus, Lako release delayed as concerns grow over toxic algae in the St. Lucie River. Why the Army Corps decided to postpone the process.
It's a new day. This is CBS 12 News This Morning.
Hey, good morning, I'm Matt Lincoln.
I'm Ashley Glass. Right now, the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial making headlines around the world. The former officer guilty in the murder of George Floyd.
These are some of the front pages of newspapers across the nation this morning. New York Times showing Derek Chauvin in handcuffs on the left. In the center, Minnesota's most well-known newspaper, the Star Tribune, showing people celebrating outside the courthouse. And the Washington Post showing George Floyd's girlfriend in tears after hearing the verdict.
We will have more on the verdict all morning long right here on CBS 12 News This Morning. But first, let's go to Lauren and a quick check on that forecast.
It's not a bad start to the morning. Most of us are waking up dry. We've got a few storms and downpours off the coast of Palm Beach County. A few storms now also marching east across the state right now. We could still see a few scattered showers out there through the day today. I expect most of us to stay mostly dry, though. Nice and dark and early out there. That was a live look for us in Boca. Checking in now outside at the airport. Again, we're in great shape outside. Got a southwest wind, so we still could get a little warm today. We're headed towards the 80s, but we're at 68 degrees right now in Belle Glade. Indiantown's down to 66, 73 in Boynton, 71 right now in Fort Pierce. It's a nice start to the morning. Skies right now partly cloudy. We're going to see some lingering cloud coverage and a few lingering showers outside as we move through our morning hours, really as we move through the afternoon. We might end up with a little bit of rainfall outside, but definitely not as much as what we've seen for the past couple of days. And again, we're still going to be able to get warm out there with our temperatures headed to right around the low to mid 80s, a few degrees above average for this time of year, but we are certainly much drier than we've been for the past few days. We'll take a closer look at your next weather maker still ahead.
We have time, temperature, weather on your screen at all times. When we look at our roads, 40-minute drive time from West Palm Beach to Port St. Lucie. That's normal this morning. Our traffic trackers on 95 north in West Palm Beach. No issues there. Right now, smooth sailing everywhere from Sebastian south to Boca Raton.
At 6 a.m. on the dot here, we need to go right back to the big story in the most watched trial in the U.S. right now. The verdict is in. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin guilty of murdering George Floyd.
Yeah, his death in the hands of police rocked the nation with protests and the call for justice back in May. And now those people celebrating the jury's decision.
Guilty!
You're hearing those cheers as crowds gathered outside the courthouse as that verdict was read. And these are the scenes. Hundreds of people taking to the streets celebrating the verdict from Minneapolis to New York, Atlanta, and Utah. People gathered for an emotional day chanting and holding signs.
Derek Chauvin faces possibly decades in jail. The jury found him guilty on all three counts: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Chauvin was taken away in handcuffs to await his sentencing after the judge revoked his bail. That hearing will take place in 8 weeks. Right now, it is unclear how much time he'll spend behind bars. The presiding judge has wide discretion in how he imposes the sentences. He could face up to 75 years in prison.
Chauvin's not the only officer facing charges in the death of George Floyd. 3 former officers who worked Floyd's arrest with Chauvin that day will have their day in court this fall. They face charges of aiding and abetting second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter. Those officers were fired the day after Floyd's murder along with Chauvin.
And reactions pouring in from all over the country, from George Floyd's family to the president.
Yeah, so many responding to that guilty verdict, but saying more needs to be done. Terry is standing by now at the live desk with some of that reaction coming in. Terry?
A lot of reaction this morning. We heard from the emotional family of George Floyd right after the verdict came down. Obvious relief, but also a lot of emotion. And the president, who said the verdict is a small step in a big move for change. George Floyd's brother spoke about justice, but how hard it was to sit in the courtroom and watch those 9 minutes of his brother's death over and over again.
It was a motion picture, the world seeing his life being extinguished. And I could do nothing but watch especially in that courtroom over and over and over again as my brother was murdered.
Nothing can ever bring their brother, their father back. But this can be a giant step forward in the march toward justice in America. Let's also be clear that such a verdict is also much too rare.
And here at home, our politicians locally also reacting to the verdict. Democratic Representative Lois Frankel wrote, "The verdict finding Derek Chauvin guilty of murder brought tears of joy and hope to millions of Americans who witnessed with their own eyes the homicide of George Floyd." And another one here from another Congresswoman, Representative Maria Elvira Salazar, a Republican. She wrote, "Derek Chauvin was held accountable for the murder of George Floyd." She goes on to say, "No man or woman is above the law ever." Tonight, she says she prayed for the George Floyd family. She says we must continue to fix injustices in society. Matt?
All right, Jerry, thank you. Tomorrow, loved ones will gather for Dante Wright's funeral in Minneapolis, just a few miles from where George Floyd lost his life. The 20-year-old Wright that was shot and killed by a police officer during a traffic stop last week. Former police officer Kim Potter faces second-degree manslaughter charges. If convicted, she faces up to 10 years in jail.
It's 6:03 right now, and happening today, a petition looking to get rid of a mask mandate in Palm Beach County schools will be presented at the school board meeting. The creator of this petition claims wearing masks affects how kids breathe in and out of the classroom. That meeting starts at 5 p.m. We'll keep you posted on anything that develops on CBS12.com. We want to give you an update now where COVID-19 cases stand in Palm Beach County schools. Matt, you have the dashboard queued up. What's it show?
Well, they update it for us every single day. A total 3,400 confirmed cases. That is from the beginning or the middle of last school year. This week, what we're seeing is between about 20 and 30 cases every single day. That's what we've seen about the past couple weeks. Yesterday, specifically, 29 cases. Again, though, that's 22,000 students and about 10,000 staff. So certainly not that many cases that we're seeing here in our local schools, even as more kids are returning to class.
That's encouraging. There are growing concerns this morning, though, from Palm Beach County health officials as people between the ages of 15 and 44 now make up most of the new COVID-19 cases in our area, making it harder to reach that herd immunity. The county's health director, Dr. Alina Alonso, says big problem among this group is misconceptions about the vaccine.
There's a rumor about the vaccine causing sterility. I don't know where that came from. It's one of those internet stories probably that evolve, and then everybody starts spreading it.
Another challenge comes from the pause on the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Right now, those vaccines are safely stored away in refrigerators. Dr. Alonso expects they'll be ready to administer those shots if federal health officials give the green light to continue. Sam will have an update from the COVID alert desk on when the CDC will make that decision. That is coming up from the COVID alert desk in 5 minutes.
Well, this morning, a release is expected to start at Lake Okeechobee today have been delayed.
And this comes just days after state water managers raised concern about toxic algae flowing into the St. Lucie River. Madeline Montgomery is standing by live now in Martin County, right along the river. So why did they postpone this, Maddie?
Matt and Ashley, Lake-O discharges were supposed to be going on here in the St. Lucie River for 8 hours, and the purpose of it was so scientists could see the impacts before hurricane season, and that's when toxic algae is usually pretty severe. And they halted this decision due to the fact that the South Florida Water Management District staff requested the Army Corps of Engineers postpone this part of the study until conditions improve, and that's because of toxic algae documented last week near Port Mayaca. The algae is nearly 3 times more toxic than federal standards. It's so unsafe that people are cautioned to steer clear. Some worry these warning signs could be a sign of what's to come, possibly a repeat of the 2018 algae crisis. A representative of the Army Corps of Engineers say it's not time to panic just yet.
The bottom line is the more information we get, the better off we can do. I mean, if I knew today what the lake was going to be on 1 June or 1 July or 1 August, I could frickin' roll this thing out beautifully. The problem is we don't know what's coming.
The Army Corps of Engineers tell CBS 12 News they are aware of the algae that was found in Port Mayaca that is above the levels of the Environmental Protection Agency recommendation for recreational use, and they're saying that every effort will be put in to contain this algae once tests start, and they still have not decided when that's going to be. For now, live in Stewart, Madeline Montgomery, CBS 12 News.
Still ahead, a woman shot to death with her 2-year-old toddler in the car with her. What the killer did next that made him easy for police to find.
And a much drier sky out there for us this morning. Just a few showers possible today. Still nice and warm out there for us too, but I'm checking another cold front that could be bringing us another round of some rain. We'll take a closer look at that next.